Claudiu Murgan, the host of the Spiritual Inspired podcast. Please join the YouTube channel, leave a comment, and like this interview. My guest today is Marv Machura. Marv is an author, psychic, tarot card expert and reader, and have recently published a self-help guide to the tarot. Marv is also a talented singing guitarist who published more than 20 songs in Nashville, Tennessee. And above all this, he is a fellow Canadian living on the West Coast. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you, Claudiu. Appreciate being here.
Marv, you are my first guest that is a professional tarot reader. What turned you from a successful musical career to spirituality and psychic work?
Well, I'm still doing music. It's not that I haven't stopped. I just do magic and music now, as I like to say. So what this happened for me was during the COVID years. It was 2022. So although I've always been psychic, I did card reading and psychic help stuff for friends and family at parties and get-togethers and never considered it a profession. And during the COVID crisis, there was no place for musicians to play except what was the farmers market here in town. They still allowed you to kind of play and, open your case. And I've never done those kind of busking gigs before, but that's all there was. And when you're a musician, you got to play. And so I went there and I was doing these things and quite enjoying it, actually. But they'd only let you play for 2 hours because there was like quite a few people who wanted to play there. And you get a 2-hour set. So I'm all set up and 2 hours are gone. And I pack my stuff up and I look around the fair and just an idea occurred to me. It says, maybe I can make a little bit of money by reading some cards here at the farmer's market. And the Claudio, that idea just wouldn't let me go. It once it possessed me, I had to follow it. So I asked them if I could do that as a busker kind of thing, and they said no, you needed a whole tent and all that regalia and an approval to do it. And so I just let it sit in my mind for the summer. But come winter, when they moved indoors and I didn't need it, all that other stuff, I took a stab at it and. Sure enough, it was going really well, but then the COVID regulations kicked in again in BC and they stopped any non-food vendors from being at the farmers market. So there I was left out in the cold there too. But I had it in my system kind of to do. And sure enough, I started writing that book at that time, my book that I've published, and I finished it over the summer. And when the summer season came in, I got a tent and I just started to do it into farmers market, and haven't looked back since that time. I've read the fortunes and more advanced into psychic awareness, I guess, and practice for the last 4 years. And it's just growing, and here I am with you talking about it. So that's where it started from, just on one of those moments that you look back on as a turning point in my life. If you would have told me in 2019 that I would be more or less making my living by reading tarot cards, I would have told you're crazy. But here I am.
So in other words, people are hungry to have their faith and the lifeline read to them and get more clarity.
I think so. I definitely see it that way, that the tarot is there for self-help and psychic help, spiritual help. For sure. You are onto the right thing there, that it is becoming, I guess, the right time, the right place. I think there's a reason for a spiritual hunger in people these days, and they're reaching out to various spiritual means, and one of those means is through the tarot. Yeah.
Thank you. So, and for those who are not familiar with tarot cards and the deck, what is the structure of a tarot deck, please?
Okay, very good. Now the tarot deck is an ancient. I like there's debate about where it got started and what it is, but I believe it's really super ancient, handcrafted thing about the human condition and our relationship to the universe and our spirit and our body, our health, our mind, our money, that goes back even before the Egyptians. I've learned since then the Mayan culture here in North America has a very similar deck. I've got a friend who's a Mayan psychic, and she uses the 22 cards. It's very similar. Anyway, to put it in a nutshell, there's 78 cards in the tarot deck, and there's a set for your spirit, a set for your health, a set for your mind, a set for your emotions, and a set for your money. Let's say the suits that it runs through. So and then there's numbers and that each card has a number. We have a relic of it in the regular playing deck. You see, the regular playing deck is based on the tarot. The only part of the spiritual part of the old tarot in the regular 52 card playing deck is the Joker. The Joker is part of what's called the major mysteries, or the spiritual aspect of the 22 cards, the most important part of the deck, which is what's called the major arcana, the major mysteries. And that those 22 cards represent the spiritual journey of the humans, our human life. We always think, I like to always say people when I'm starting a reading, think of yourself as a spiritual being who's having a human experience. So, but to get back to you, so there's those 78 cards, and they are graphical representation of the human condition, I believe. And I think that's why they work so well as a divinatory medium, because you're working with the metaphysical vibrations of their life and the various parts of their life. And if the metaphysical vibrations are in the right zone, like with a medium like myself, like handling them, they bring up the right card for you at the right time. And because each card has so much rich history and representation of the human condition, when you draw that card, you can draw on all that knowledge about the human condition to speak to the person directly what that card means and could mean in their life.
And are all the tarot decks structured the same, or are there any major differences?
Most all tarot decks are structured the same. There's not too many differences, and but the tarot deck has evolved over the years. And most people nowadays, still the most popular deck is the Rider-Waite deck, which comes from the 18th century. And the next big change came with Crowley and Harris, who put together the 19th century version, or the 20th century, I should say, of the Thoth tarot. And there's a few changes with the Thoth versus the Rider-Waite. Like, for example, the most important change is in the Rider-Waite deck, there's a king. And Crowley and Harris got rid of the king. It's replaced by a knight. They saw the new millennium as a time when humankind was no longer following the rules of the king, and that the king didn't have a place in an age where every person is responsible for their own salvation and for their own will.
And
yeah, go ahead.
Do you work with only one tarot deck or multiple ones?
I work with just the one deck. Yeah, I work with what's called the Millennium Thoth Tarot. It's relatively new deck. It's released in 2019, so right when I started into this. And it's funny how this came to me too, because like when I started thinking about tarot, I thought, well, I better get a tarot deck, because I used to just read the regular deck of cards, and how the regular deck of cards, my understanding was how it related to the regular tarot. And so I just walked into Chapters one day here in my town, and went to the section of the occult and saw this deck, and it looks pretty good, and I bought it. And like, it changed my life. It's a Thoth deck, which I didn't even know what that meant when I bought it. I hadn't done that much research. And the deck is painted by a person called Renata Lechner, and she's painted so much detail into these cards, so much wisdom and knowledge. I think she's a magician beyond belief. I'm currently writing another book about this deck. It's so rich with I could say the depth of human experience and astrology, symbolism.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah,
I mean, I did a
that's
lot
the
of
deck I use, and my
yeah.
book doesn't require that deck. But I contacted her, and I asked her if I could use the images from the book for the major arcana part of my book, and she said yes. So I have permission to use those, and I also got a license from her to sell these decks. I mean, there's so many tarot decks out there right now, but I think this is going to be a enduring deck. It is it's just magical for me, so it might be magical for other people too. You don't actually have to have that deck to use my book, though. My book is based on that deck, but there's a piece in the front of the book where I explain how you can use any tarot deck and get this sort of similar vibe and information from it. Yeah, that
Yeah.
my book provides.
And that's why I ask you if you work only with one or multiple decks, because during my
Yeah,
research, a lot of tarot deck or tarot readers are using multiple decks based on, preferences and
yeah,
circumstances. And some of them even go through a very interesting process of interviewing the deck they bought. So in your
mm,
case, it was just a hint, an intuition to walk into chapters and buy it.
I
You
know.
didn't have a previous process because you didn't have the,
No,
the
I
experience. Yes.
I didn't. It was just love at first sight, and I guess I lucked out with the Millennium Toth deck by Ronaldo Lechner because I I I mean I could use other decks, I suppose, but I don't see why I would right
Yeah.
now. Just to,
And from time to time, we have to clear our homes with smudging or clear our
yeah.
crystals. Do
Hmm.
you do we have to clear the tarot deck as well?
I'd recommend it. Yeah.
And will
Yeah.
the smudging be enough?
It may not be enough, but it's certainly starting the process in the right direction. You may have to like uh, put a crystal on it, favorite stone, or there's all kinds of methods you can to clear a deck. Um, Even taking the deck and the old-fashioned way of knocking on the cards. I always do this at the start of a reading when after shuffling, is you knock with your knuckle slightly to knock out the previous energy on it and bring in the new energy. Yeah. Some people don't allow other people to touch their decks. Um, I'm kind of on the fence on that one. Uh, when I'm doing a reading, sometimes I just have a urge. I say like especially if I'm not getting too much from the cards I'm drawing, I'll tell the querent to cut the deck for me or shuffle it for me, just to get her energy or his energy into the deck in the right way. But typically, the metaphysical vibration between the reading is not that's not required for me.
Okay.
The cards always seem to speak to me in an accurate way. There are, I guess there are times when I don't get it, and usually like when that happens, when I'm not channeling the person for whatever reason, and it could be that the universe just doesn't want that person to know what they're telling at that time. That happens, and I'll just say, okay, I'm sorry, I can't do this. I'm not getting anything from you. I'll never I'll just stop the reading and return the money or whatever it might be. Yeah.
Interesting.
So
And I watched on YouTube several tarot readers doing readings either for a specific zodiac sign or for humanity in
yeah.
general. Do they use different techniques for each subject, or they use this? They tap into the same energy field?
Yeah, well, different techniques and same energy field, like a different technique to tap into the energy. One of the things about doing tarot readings for somebody like who's famous or whatever it might be, is that they didn't ask you for the reading. So it's kind of a ground there you can kind of walk on. It's casual, but like I was watching a video the other day of somebody who was doing a tarot reading for President Trump, for example, or ex-President Trump, and it was clear that her bias was not favorable to Trump. And I think when you do a reading like with anybody, you got to clear your bias. You can't. It'll affect your reading. So if I was to do one for say Trump or Pierre Trudeau here in Canada, I would have to somehow make myself a clear channel so I've got zero stake in that game kind of thing. Just like if somebody comes to me and I know them, that's also a challenge to do, to just wipe out any kind of preconceived things that I feel about that person. So
Yes. Otherwise, our
I've seen
opinion
that
is
online
tainted.
again, but it's
Yes.
it's very like I'm interested in it. I'm interested in prophecy, world prophecy, certainly end of times that we're getting into these days. I'm very interested in that. Nostradamus has always been a huge um, point of interest for me, um, and what he says about the end of times. I just recently read what's her name's book about the end of times too. Um, Sylvia Brown. So
Okay, interesting.
maybe, I mean, I haven't indulged myself. I just I keep thinking about it. Like maybe I should look and maybe see what I can foresee what the tarot would tell me. Interesting that you bring it up because I've been thinking about that. But
Yes,
I've been preparing for it because again, I think when you do those kind of prophecies, you have to really uh, clear your mind of bias. Yeah.
yes, indeed. Marv, how do you usually use your psychic abilities?
Well, I use my psychic abilities with the cards. So it's combination of the card that's pulled, the knowledge of the card, and what you read inside the person's um, mind, I guess. When you look at the future, like I can sometimes often see, way beyond the card with the psychic, your psychic ability. Sometimes I don't even need the cards. Sometimes, I know psychics like that too. They don't require that. Um, so and am I answering the question? That's a good
Yes,
question. Because a lot of people ask that. I mean, I am reading the cards. Yes, that's true. And but I'm reading the cards with a psychic intent. So it's a combination of knowledge and what the card represents and all that, and my own learning and my own self as a human being, and the psychic connection with what I see in the astral plane that relates to this person.
and do you do any psychic readings without the cards, or only the combination of two?
Only the combination of two. Yeah.
Okay.
A lot of people do ask me to do what's called necromancy, like a medium with the people who are dead. And I don't like to do that. I think the dead should be left dead unless they come. Oftentimes, in a reading, I will get a visitor. I'll see, I'll sense it or see it clearly, and that's different because then I can, ask that person or whatever it might be that entity that obviously somebody who has passed away and often is accompanying a spirit or one of my querents to the reading.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen too often, but it happens typically. Like they seem to be just either curious about me or they're protective of the querent. I can see that sometimes, but I don't. People always you have to. Can you tell me about my aunt? Who died 2 years ago? I can, but that's something that I don't want to call her in. I don't want to step on that. That's or step that way. I suppose. Yeah.
Understandable. And this interview will be released in March. Would you do a reading for us regarding the month of March and what should we expect from, let's say, weather,
Oh
geopolitical,
boy.
spiritual
Let's see here.
aspects, please?
Hey,
Thank you.
what would be good? March. Again, time is funny because time isn't quite the same on the other side. So, but let's just say soon, okay?
Soon,
Soon, and let's. Do you want me to do one for you?
if possible, yes, why not? Thank you.
Okay. All right. Okay, let's see. Okay, so just clear your mind and give me a number between 1 and 3. Okay.
1 and 3, 2,
Yeah.
my birthday.
Okay. Well, good things are going to happen to you in the near future. you'll be starting something that is very beneficial for your spirit. It's going to energize your energy, energize your energy. Like give you a charge. You know, when you do things you love to do, and it seems that the universe is pulling you forward, whether you want to or not. This is where your spirit is headed in the next little while. You're going to feel strong and powerful. Um, you drew the prince, the Prince of Wands, and whenever the prince is drawn, it's always about starting something new, and it's from your what you've already started to do, but it's going to branch off into something new, something because you don't get to be the prince for nothing, right? You move up the line, so the work you've been doing is going to open another door for you. So as you travel on, beware of those experiences that are out there that are somehow not even in your own volition that are pushing you that way. You know your life is charted somewhere, and it's you're gonna feel a powerful energy that you haven't felt in a while, pushing you forward and
Thank
more
you.
intuitive. Yeah, I see. Also, this is in your cards too. The Queen of Wands, two wands. So if especially if you've been kind of bogged down and dragging your energy levels lately, expect them to boost and very noticeably. Yeah,
Yeah, I need that. Thank you.
yeah, and especially you know what you're gonna as part of this move on, you're not gonna totally forget a heartbreaking thing that has happened in the past, but it's gonna get further and further from you because you've been blaming yourself a little bit for something that wasn't your fault that couldn't have been avoided, and you're going to move past that by a long shot. You never really move past that, but you because that always somehow blocks us. But it's something that you're going to move away from
Thank you.
in a big way. Yeah. Okay.
Mm.
How about anything else? Let's see.
For
Pick a
yeah, please go ahead.
let's see Canadian. It's uh sports. No, we don't want to do the Maple Leafs versus the Oilers. No.
No, I'm not into sports.
Yeah,
Canadian politics, if you want.
Canadian politics. Okay, so okay, I'll try to clear my mind here, and let's do for Justin Trudeau. See how March will go for Justin. Okay, Justin's going to be all over the place in the month of March. He's going to be drawing from all of his bag of tricks to carry forward with his message. He's going to feel empowered and strong as he starts this month off. It's very much going to be his month. I don't see anything stepping in his way. I see him really pulling together his party and the people around him to make his message clear. And whether you agree with it or not, it's he's going to be there pulling strings. I see as the future on for him too. It's going to be a bit much, almost too much. He's going to have to pull back at some point because it's a long. He's going to overdo it for himself, and that'll put him into some just not really bad health, but it's going to affect his performance because he's going to be too out there. I mean, he's going to be he'll need to calm down for his political future and his health reasons too.
Interesting. And
Yeah, but I
weather-wise, I know that the solar
oh
activity is intensifying
oh
and people are watching the sun every single day. Anything from your
yeah.
end, please?
Okay, weather. Yeah, yeah, we're going to experience a lot of events of weather here in March. March is going to be a month where Mother Nature shows us who is boss, and she's going to swing her magic sword in a lot of different directions to sort of rattle the cage. It's Yeah, and we're going to look back on some times when it was more calm and gentle, but Mother Nature is expect turbulence. Um, but as the month ends and spring begins, it's going to rock back into balance. Yeah, that's what I see. But
Interesting.
definitely expect expect some weird, very powerful stuff in March, the near future.
Thank
Stuff
you.
that's going to really, yeah. Sorry, that's not what I wanted. Not necessarily good, but yeah, I see that.
Mark,
Interesting. Yeah.
yeah. Mark, are you going to expand your tarot readings over YouTube as well, or are you going to stay, let's say, private with clients that know you and word of mouth type of approach?
Oh, good question. Um, no, I'm gonna expand as much as I can. Like, I keep expanding more and more as things go. Like, say, talking to you. Um, I do have some videos out there that I made when I first started when I first released the book, but I gonna do more. And I've started doing online readings in a bigger way too. I've joined a couple of company, or at least one company in the States called Spiritual Blossom, which does phone in. And I also put in my website for more online readings. I've got a scheduling app now, so people can schedule readings, and we can do them anytime I have the available time. I'm also, well, last year I started working with a touring company called Galaxy Psychics, if you're familiar with that in Canada.
Mm.
They're out of Eastern Canada, and they're coming through Western Canada again this spring. So I'll be at the Edmonton, Calgary Fair, Kelowna, and possibly Vancouver, possibly Grand Prairie too. Um, those are big fairs, right? Those like really, they come into a big hotel, and it's some amazing psychics they have. And I joined them last year, and for me it was like, that when you do this, when I started doing this, it's kind of a lonely thing because I didn't really know anybody that was also doing it, but now I know lots of people, and it's very gratifying to see the great spiritual people out there. There's a really a spiritual wave, as you're
Yeah.
part of, that is out there right now in our society, that is, of course, forecast by Nostradamus and other end of days people, seeing that people will experience this rise of spiritualness, let's say, a spiritualness, greater emphasis on us as spiritual beings having a human experience.
Yes, indeed. And now I want to ask you a question as a musician. You've been in this
Okay.
industry for almost all your life, and
Yeah.
I'm an outsider. And I look at the music from the 70s, 80s, 90s. I grew up with this music.
Yeah.
Those amazing singers, doesn't matter if it's a country or pop or rock. There is some content, like in the lyrics, the music was different. And nowadays, that environment has changed for us, which are in our 50s, 60s, 70s. And we understand, we see the shift. And the new, let's say, singers, the new, yeah, singers, I don't want to give them any
Hmm.
other labels,
Yeah.
um, don't come with the same substance, the same, not even spirituality, not even um, yeah, I will use substance other than anything else, because it's just empty to me and to a lot of us, empty words, empty sounds, just to attract a demographic which is not mature enough. What is your take?
I couldn't agree more. It's especially the mainstream of the music industry has fallen into a lack of creativity and newness, and they're very stale and very repetitive. Most of the records have been they use the same sounds. Every singer has the same box that say that makes their voice sound a certain way. It's all perfect. It's all tuned, auto-tuned. And it's boring. It's not rattling our cage. It's not doing what art should do, which is uplifting the spirit. And I'm very sad about that. There's lots of music being written, but it's hard to get to. It's you have to go looking for it nowadays, and a lot of people don't have that time and effort to put it into. To look through all the channels and flip through to find the people that are doing the good stuff. So, um, and I see it's even going to be more so like with AI generated music. Uh, it, it's just again, like you and I grew up in the same time period when Heart came on the radio, we knew it was Heart. It wasn't, or when you know the Doobie Brothers, you could tell from the first notes this is the Doobie Brothers. But nowadays you can hear like five singers in a row and wonder, oh, who's that? You don't hear that individuality anymore in commercial radio. Yeah,
Yes,
and
and
it's
in fact, I wanted to ask you about AI, and you just answered. I think it's a big danger, not only to the music industry, but to the publishing and writing industries.
mhm,
And I
is
am part of various authors groups, and they all say, yeah, sooner rather than later, doesn't matter if we write a great book, if AI will write something faster than us, the publisher might go with it. So,
yeah, I know. Yeah, like and even like reading books or audiobooks. Like my book, somebody gave me an offer the other day for $700. They could put an AI generated audiobook without a human voice, and most people couldn't tell the difference. And so that's just starting now. But I suppose in like 4 or 5 years, I'll be able to say, okay, I want, let's say, I want Winston Churchill to read my book, and for $200 they'll somehow get him, and it'll sound like Winston Churchill, and he'll read my book. So I don't know. It's a wide open question. So we'll see what happens, I guess. But I
yes,
still have faith that maybe even this and AI will push people more into that individual spirit and away from the corporate culture and the group think that is out there. Yeah,
yes,
so
for
maybe
sure.
it'll, yeah.
Yeah, it depends on the laws which will be passed, the
Oh,
politicians that will
yeah,
be at
the
the
laws.
helm,
Mhm.
because everything comes from the top, and if we don't
Yeah,
stick together and push back, these things won't happen.
that's right. Well said.
Marv, what is
That's
your conceptualization of God? How do you perceive God?
well, in my book, I use the word universe for God. Um, it's got less baggage than God. There is no name for God. It's the one, the force. It's the good. It's the creator, the ultimate reality. So like in that poem by what's his name, Max Ehrman, he says, "You are a child of the universe." Supposed to, you're a child of God, and he made that distinction, I guess. But I know he was saying that the universe is unfathomable. The universe is very much like God, let's say, and in the Jewish Kabbalistic tradition, uh, Keter, the top of the tree of life, right, is the unimaginable. Our human minds, we a lot of people anthropomorphize God as a person, but they don't. And again, like the Muslim faith is similar to that too, right? You can't put an image of God anywhere. Uh, Growing up in the Ukrainian Catholic Church that I did, for example, I remember one of the parishes that I attended as a child. God was drawn on the ceiling as a angry old man with a beard, and he's pointing down to the congregation, and and I remember being a little kid and looking up and just being scared to death of that. It was just like, whoa. So yeah, for me, I realize I can't comprehend. I can't imagine God other than, say, the universe, or you, like that poem by Rossetti, that the idea that you can't see God, but you see the effects of God. So, like, again, it's just when the wind blows, you can't see the wind, but you see the trees bend over,
Yeah.
and you know that the wind is passing by. And in a similar way, we see the effects of God. I see you. I see even this computer, this marvel that comes from God, comes from the universe, and we can't see God, but we can see what he does, or he or she or it, does. So God is a perfectly good word. It's just that it has a lot of baggage that I, I didn't want to use in my book. So I strained over that though too. So
Yes, and I usually ask, what's
universe
your...
is like I always say, the universe be, and I always say, thank the universe,
Yes.
thank God. To me, they're interchangeable. The
Yes.
one, the force, the creator. Yeah.
Yeah. And
So,
again, usually I ask, what's your perception of God, divinity, universe? So this time I just shorten it a little bit.
oh, good, good. Yeah. Well, it's true. I think you have to, as Bob Dylan said, you have to serve someone. And so that's who I choose to serve. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he chose to serve the wrong person, or the wrong entity, but that's his problem.
Well, yeah, maybe, yeah, that's right. It's we have free will. We can choose to serve
Yes.
whoever we want. The biggest mistake is to serve yourself. But there's, as you know, in psychic work, it is dangerous, because there's the other side is not all roses and rainbows. There's plenty of dangers there, and pitfalls along the way. As you know, in all spiritualists, look what happens to the Catholic Church. People how that corrupted people.
Yes.
Power corrupts, and when you have spiritual power, especially spiritual power, that may be the most corruptive of all. Like, I like to use the example of people, like when you if you curse somebody, like, and certainly, metaphysical energies, they carry on, right? And you are doing something that's just wrong. You shouldn't judge like that. And it's the temptation, as always, as human beings, like, that's why that line is, lead us not into temptation, thy will be done, deliver us from the evil. Like, that's those lines from Jesus are so fundamental to, like, myself. And I think people need to, especially in this business, need to get into that. Again, I see it like a lot of problem with magic and ritual and stuff like that, is they lose the fact, or even card, they lose the fact that it's not, you're not doing it. You're coming through, you're serving somebody.
Yes.
And so this, you gotta be careful, and develop a strong, as I say, like, a strong relationship with the universe, with God. But we're not meant to be alone. We're meant to have that voice. And I think God, the universe, talks to each one of us, but we stop listening at some point. A lot of us do.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
Marv, thank you for a
Deep
lovely
question.
discussion. We are approaching the end of
I
the
wasn't
interview.
expecting that, my friend. Okay, very
Any
nice.
final
Yes.
words?
No, thank you so much. Travel on. You know, God bless you, if I will say that for
Thank
sure. You're
you.
doing great work here. And listeners, again, you look me up. I'm always open to talking about my book or anything like that with you. I think it has the potential to help you forward in your life. I wrote it with that in mind. So I hope it does that for all of you.
Thank you very much, Marv. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And to my viewers, thank you for watching. Share it, like it, leave a comment. Visit claudiumurgan.com and spiritualinspired.ca. And until next time, love and gratitude.